The gospel of Jesus is God's call to you personally. It's God's invite to you. But what exactly is He inviting you into? In this video, I want to dig deeper with that question by sharing my 4-part gospel call framework to help you understand the benefits of following Jesus. Before I do that, though, it's really important for you to know that the gospel itself is not merely an invitation from God. The gospel is good news. In another video in this playlist, I explained the 3 components of the gospel. The first is historical events or facts, like Jesus' death and resurrection. Second are truths or assertions based on those facts. Like Jesus' death, fact was for our sins, truth or claim. Gospel facts lead to gospel truths. Those 2 components form the foundation of the third, the gospel's call. Now, the essence of the gospel's call is to have a thriving, eternal, life-giving relationship with Jesus. In John 10:10, he said, "I have come that they may have life and have it to the full." The flip side of that is that without Jesus, we do not have life, nor will we be able to experience it to the full. But all of that, understanding that, can just be a bit muddy and tough to grasp, and that's why I've created this 4-part framework for understanding the gospel's call. My goal is to clarify the warnings and the promises that come with God's call, as well as the benefits of saying yes to God's call and the consequences of saying no. Part 1 of this framework is that God immediately calls us out of what's deadly and destructive. That negative thing might be a behavior or a habit, like lying or lusting. The gospel calls you to stop those practices. Or the negative thing might be a wrong attitude, like defeatism. The whole universe is against me. Nobody likes me. I'm all alone. The negative thing might be a false belief. Or it can even be like an identity thing. For example, without Jesus, we are alienated from God. That's our status. We are cut off from Him. But God calls us out of that alienation through the gospel and into fellowship with Him. In short, this first part is all about the negative elements that Jesus immediately calls us out of. God calls us out of death. It's everything that goes along with eternal destruction, separation from God. God is the God of life. He does not like death or deadly practices. He wants us to live, and He calls us out of death. That's part 1. Part 2 in the framework is that God immediately calls us into what is life-giving. Part 1, He calls us out of what's life-killing. Part 2, He calls us into, right now, what is life-giving. This is the immediate positive call of God. If God calls you out of lying and lusting, He calls you into truth-telling and purity. Lying and lusting wreak havoc in your soul and in your relationships. Upholding honesty and viewing people as persons rather than sex objects is what keeps your soul intact and causes your relationships to flourish. In part 1, God calls you out of being a spiritual orphan. Part 2 in the framework focuses on the part that God calls you into adoption, to become a son or daughter in His forever family so that you can enjoy all the benefits Christ Himself enjoys. So that's part 2. Of course, there's a lot more to each part, but this is just an overview for now. The first 2 parts have to do with God's immediate benefits. The second 2 parts in this framework have to do with God's eternal benefits and promises. So part 3 is that God eternally calls us out of what's deadly and destructive. Death does not control our destiny. All that's harmful and dreadful and awful in this life will forever be removed by God. No more angst, no more catastrophes, no more cancer, no more explosive rage, no more uncertainty, no more stress. God will remove it all: death, pain, and suffering. It's destructive things that are either internal and external. We will no longer have a fallen bent in our hearts and minds. Inside will be perfect, and the environment we are in will be perfected by God. So that's the third part of the gospel call. Part 4 in the framework is that God eternally calls us into life and what's life-giving. God is eternal and endless. His creativity, His joy, His delights, His peace, His work, our experience with God and His people will only get better and better with each new chapter that unfolds in eternity. There will never be any boredom. Everything will be interesting. Every surprise will lead to awe and wonder. That kind of eternal bliss is what He promises you in His call to you. You receive a small taste of that right now. When your time on this earth comes to an end, or this stage in history comes to an end, only good things await those who say yes to God's call. That's part 4. So I hope you can see how I divided up His call. He immediately calls us out of what's life-killing and into what's life-giving right now. That is how our life changes with the gospel in this life. We get a relationship with God and all of its benefits. Eternity is part of the package. He promises to remove all things that are harmful in the future and forever increase everything that's wonderful in eternity. Jesus is a God of life, and true life is found only through a relationship, a connection by faith with Him. The warning with His call is this: trying to achieve life or do life or sustain life on earth without Him will always end in disaster. It will feel like or lead to ruin, and it leads to a lifeless and godless eternity. The promise, though, with this call is that He will come to you right now and be with you and pour His love into your heart and fill you with power and direct you with a new purpose in life, and He will awaken you to a new hope. There's absolutely nothing like a relationship with Jesus, which is why I'm making these videos on the gospel. If you don't know me, my name is Aaron Massey, and I've been following Jesus and teaching the Bible for more than 15 years. If you heard something that was helpful in this video, be sure to like it, subscribe to my channel, and check out my playlists on the basics of the gospel and the other one on how the gospel works in our lives. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.